What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Weekly Intention with Michael Mulder. And this is actually my first video interview. I know you guys are used to me doing these in person, but I have a very special guest today that's actually in California that I wanted to speak with. So I definitely wanted to get on the video here. This one is going to be all about taking massive action in your life while inspiring others to do the same. So if that interests you, this is definitely a good one to watch. Now, this man to my left, the reason that I hunted him down is, funny enough, it actually ended up being through work. But after I learned a little bit about his story and his accolades, really wanted to talk to him. This man is the host of Born to Run It podcast. It's a podcast that inspires local entrepreneurs to take action within their own life. And he is actually the co-owner of one of the largest care franchises in all of North America. So super excited to have Marcus Moura on with us today.
Well, Michael, thank you for having me. And that's a very, very nice intro. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. I just tell it how it is, you know. No fluffing here. But yeah, super glad to have you. Like I said, this is the Weekly Intention. So it's not really a business related podcast. It's all about helping people realize the potential that they have in their own life. And usually I'll just pick out a few topics and things that I think entrepreneurs and people who have had massive levels of success in their life and break them down in ways that show people that, you know, people like you and people like I guess people that want to be you, there's not that big of a difference other than the fact that they took some steps in their life. So
I love it. I think that's great. It's funny you should say that anybody would want to be me. Have them call my wife and tell them that, you know. What's great about a wife, man, is she always keeps you humble. Spouses, right? Mm-hmm. They keep you pretty humble, which is great.
I agree. I've got a girlfriend, and I noticed the difference between, you know, being solo and just letting your ego run wild and having somebody there to kind of check your attitude.
That's right. Yeah.
And keep you even keeled. So I 100% agree with you. Well, thanks again so much for jumping on. There's a few things that I think that you've done tremendously well in your life and in your career that we're definitely going to get into and break down. But what I always like to break down first before I even get into, you know, all the accolades and the things that you see now is really that beginning of your life, because I think that's so fundamental in having people understand, you know, where you came from, you know, kind of your childhood, the type of parenting that you had, and really what made, you know, you to start. So would love you to just give a little intro on, you know, where you're from, your early life, and we can get into it that way.
Sure. Go. And you want me to go way back to like when I was born?
Wait, no. Let's go.
I was born in 1977. Like go way back. Should I go way back or where do I start?
77. Let's not go the womb, because I don't even remember that. Let's go like high school to college area.
College.
The transformative years.
Probably one of the biggest things that was transformative for me is that I was raised in São Paulo, Brazil, and my mom and dad are Brazilians. And my dad actually came to university in the U.S. in the 60s and 70s. He had this amazing opportunity to come to school here in the United States at Brigham Young University, where Brigham Young University paid my dad's entire tuition. Like, just amazing opportunity for this Brazilian guy, right?
BYU in Utah.
Oh, what's that?
BYU in Utah.
BYU in Utah, right? So my dad moves from Brazil with his wife, and they already had my big brother. They moved to Provo, Utah, and here's these Brazilians in the 70s going to Brigham Young University. They were so excited. So I was born in Provo, but when I was 5 years old, we went back to Brazil, because the plan had kind of been that my dad would go to university here and then eventually go back to Brazil and really help run some of the Mormon church there in Brazil, and work in Brazil. So in 80, we moved back to Brazil, and I was raised there from 80 to 91. And it was like a magical childhood. It was so incredibly fun being raised in Brazil. And in 91, my dad was sick of Brazil. The economic situation was terrible in 91. So we moved back. We moved back to the United States in 1991. I was 14, 15 years old. I had a crazy accent. Like, I had the best Brazilian accent. Like, I sounded like a Brazilian jiu-jitsu instructor, you know?
I bet that made you pretty popular.
I thought it was great. Actually, I think back then I couldn't even hear my accent. So
No.
when people would say I had an accent, I couldn't hear it. But it kind of went away. I think because my first language really was English, and I moved to Brazil, but then I had an accent. So I've lost it since. But it was. I think a lot of who I am today is influenced by that massive move from Brazil to the U.S. while I was in, just getting started with high school. It was challenging. It was really hard transition, and I do think it actually affected who I am as an adult today.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, just culturally going back from one place to another and making those changes like twice, especially when you're growing up. When you come from Brazil to America, now you're living, you were living in Utah. So for high school, you were in Utah.
We moved initially to Minnesota. Went to Blaine High School for a year, and then we moved to Utah. And Blaine was a high school in Blaine in Minnesota was fun, but it was challenging, right? What was interesting about moving here from Brazil in '91 is the kids in Minnesota had never seen a Brazilian. So it was kind of like, you'd say, where are you from? I'd say, I'm from Brazil. They go, okay, but what does that mean? It's like, where do I put you in my knowledge of the world? Like, is that in Africa? Is that in South America? Is that in Europe? And it was actually what was interesting is it wasn't racism. It wasn't prejudice. It was just an interest. It was like, wow, this is really fascinating. I don't know where to place you because you're not from Mexico. You're not from Russia. You're not from the Philippines, right? It's like Brazil is this weird place. And in '91, that really was, right? I think a kid at 14, 15 years old in Minnesota couldn't really place Brazil on a map. And I loved it, actually. I thought it was also really cool because so many kids would come and ask me more about, and they would say things like, man, what is it like now living in a real home? And I'd say, well, actually, and I did live in a real home in Brazil. Like I lived in São Paulo. It's a big city. Or they'd say, things like, did you wear just kind of Indian clothing, like crazy questions. But it was always out of interest and I've never ever felt any racism, discrimination from anybody in this country, quite frankly.
You want to know what's so interesting? I was actually born in '91, and I was born and raised in South Dakota. So I was right next door to Minnesota. And
Yes.
I know exactly to a T what you're saying. It's not that people were like racist or anything like that.
No.
It's a lack of culture, honestly. There's just not a lot of like South Dakota, Minnesota, North Dakota. It's not a very diverse type place. When you're growing up on the farm where there's not a lot of new ideas to spread, people are very, very curious when they get the actual opportunity to talk to people. So that's so crazy that you're in Minnesota. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. But always kindness. I got to tell you, man, the kindness we were shown by our neighbors. I remember it's 1991 and it was a snowstorm of the century. You were born when there was a snowstorm of the century in Minnesota.
It's brutal.
And the Twins won the World Series that year.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it started snowing on Halloween night and we didn't have a snowblower. We were just fresh from Brazil. So we're looking out the window and we can't even see our driveway. But when we looked out again and there's this shadowy figure on our driveway, like, running the snowblower on our driveway. And we're like, who is that? And it was Howard, our front door neighbor. We had barely met the guy and he was out there, just snow blowing our driveway, kind of waving at us. He's got icicles in his beard and, was blowing the driveway for this weird new Brazilian family that just moved into the neighborhood. So like so many examples of that, of just kindness after kindness to my family, from just so many people when we moved to this country. It was really quite amazing.
That's amazing. And I actually want to unpack that because I think that I'm already spotting a trend of like where your mindset has kind of taken shape. I feel like when you go from such a diverse environment to another diverse environment like Minnesota, and your dad makes such a drastic jump early in your life, that's training your brain to say, wow, I really can do anything. My dad just moved us from a different country entirely to Minnesota. Do you feel like from an early age, you started to get that idea like, wow, like anything is possible? We did this.
In a way, man, I'm actually somewhat risk adverse. I actually am. I'm not super willing to take like huge risks like my dad. So for example, I don't think I would take my young little kids who are in that picture right there, and there's my wife. I don't think I would take them to like Bolivia, because of some opportunity. I am so impressed that my dad did that. The fact that he had the guts to sell everything. He sold everything in Brazil. We came with just a tiny bit of stuff, and he actually did really well in Brazil. He came very well funded when he came to the U.S. Even with the exchange rate, he had quite a bit of money. But he didn't have much of a plan. It was, I'm going to go, I'm going to get, he had his work visa, and then I'm going to figure things out. Mm. I don't know that I would do that today. So I think my dad was a much bigger risk taker at my age than I am today, quite frankly.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I think
there's Tristan.
There she is.
That's one of my boys.
One of your boys.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I saw him in the other video.
Hey, bud. That's another one. Like they all walk in all the time.
That's the older one. That's good. Provides a little.
This is Tristan.
What's up, Tristan?
This is Michael. Tristan, say hi.
Hi, Michael.
Hey, Tristan. How you doing?
Great. How are you?
Very good. Very good. Just interviewing your dad here. He's got a good story to tell.
Thanks, man.
Nice to meet you.
Well, I guess I figured, that one video that came out, I think it was pre-pandemic. Remember when the kid walks in, the little baby walks in, and the lady taking care of the kid walks in behind the kid to take him out of the interview. Remember that video that
went viral? He was walking and he was doing like that interview, and she was pulling him out of the room. And
she's like on her hands and knees trying to pull the kid out. And I always thought, what's the big deal? You're at home. If your kid comes in, your kid comes in. It's like if people are that professional that they get turned off by a kid walking in, then they can go watch something else.
I agree. Yeah, you got to be comfortable in your own life. Well, I do think that you've taken some big risks, which we're going to get into. But you're in Minnesota. You moved to Utah. What I'm really curious about is you get that spark, and you kind of get that itch, whether that was an entrepreneur itch or when you first realized that you had the ability to inspire others to make a change. When did you first start to realize that things were like a little bit different for you, that maybe you weren't going to go that, traditional route and go to, work a 9-to-5 job, and you really wanted to build something for yourself?
It started, I think, in around 2001 or 2. I was working for Countrywide, which is now what became Bank of America, doing loans. And I was a pretty good loan officer, but I really struggled with that 9-to-5 where I was selling for Countrywide, and every month I had to reinvent, right? You have to sell every single month. And I wanted to build something. And so another guy that worked at Countrywide with me, Uli, who is probably one of my most favorite business partners I've ever had. He and I were young. We decided, let's open our own brokerage. And so we actually walked in together to our boss's office, and I was really nervous. I don't know why I was so nervous to quit. It wasn't so much I was nervous about what was going to happen tomorrow. I was nervous to tell my boss that we were both quitting. We walked in together and our boss, Jeff, he said, I expected it. I expected that you guys would have. Like, really? You guys? Yeah, And so we put our 2 weeks in. I don't know that we finished our 2 weeks. And so Uli and I opened a mortgage brokerage from about 2003 until 2007, when the mortgage industry completely crashed. And we had a very successful brokerage. We did really well. Again, a guy that, for those years, I think this is having this experience is one of the most amazing experiences I think an entrepreneur can have, which is having a business partner that you trust 100%. There was never a time in my business relationship with that dude from 03 to 07 or 08, when everything came crashing, where we ever had any trust issues. We had disagreements. We had passionate conversations. We had, all of that. But I trusted him implicitly. And it's such an amazing feeling to have that freedom to have a business partner that you can run and not worry about trust was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. And I haven't talked to Uli in a very long time, but I love him dearly. Like it was one of the best experiences I've ever had as being his business partner.
That's so interesting to me because, you know, when you think about business and starting out, you have so many different things on your plate, you know, as you scale and you're trying to like build the confidence within yourself and you're running 1,000,000 miles an hour to do all those things. So there's all these intangibles like trust, or maybe just something goes wrong in the business, or like something breaks, or there's, you know, there's 1,000,001 things that can happen. So being able to have that checked off your plate, I'm sure that was a huge relief for you. And I think that might
Yeah.
even be a testament to you, you know, because I firmly believe that internally, like if you trust yourself, you're manifesting that outward too. Like if you don't trust yourself, you're going to put yourself in front of some sketchy people, but I feel like we're confident early enough at an age where you could identify somebody who is like-minded. Do you think that's true?
No, I don't. Maybe, but I don't know if it's giving me too much credit because really it was we got along. Ooh and I got along. I used to call him Ooh Gross because Ooh Gross, right? Because his name was Uli. But we liked each other. We got along really well, and we decided to start a business. I think we were lucky that we were so different. He and I are very different operators, very different entrepreneurs, different challenges, and different skills. And so we complemented each other very well. But throughout our partnership, we also had a lot of love and admiration for each other. I really, really admired the way his brain worked. He was more risk adverse than I was, and an incredibly good salesman. And so we were really able to work off of each other. But if he made a mistake, I was always there to build him up and help him work through that mistake. And if I made a lot of mistakes, and he was always there to help me out and to work through it. It was an amazing experience. And the only reason I believe we didn't stay as business partners is in 2008, the mortgage meltdown happened, and we were immediately shut down. Like it's a weird thing to have a business that on Monday you're open and you're thinking about where am I going to go? We were about to open more offices in California and in Arizona because we were in Nevada. Whatever, it was a Tuesday. And on a Wednesday you walk in and the business is over. Like it was such a stark stop because, you know, loans were all frozen, right? Nobody could do loans anymore. But that was also a really good experience, was going through that crazy failure of 2008.
I do want to unpack that because I feel like, you know, as we get into the Amada care story, that's going to be really, really crucial. So you're picking up steam. You've got a great business partner. You guys, you trust each other. You're empowering each other. You know, the mortgage industry was booming prior to that. And it just it's just snapped like that. What do you feel like when you wake up that morning and it's just done?
Well, it wasn't apparent immediately to us on the ground. All the mortgage brokers throughout the country. This is so crazy because if you're my age and you've lived through 2008, it is like Great Depression stuff. We were all very changed by 2008. All of us that were rocked by it, because some people got through 2008 just fine, right? But if you're in your 40s, 50s, and you're kind of coming up in 2008 and you were hit by it, it absolutely changes you. It kind of makes you into a depression kids. Like I'm very careful with my money now. I'm very, even a little more risk adverse than I was before, wanting to make sure that I make the right moves. But it was not like we knew it was over. All we knew on day one is that our loans were on hold. And I remember being on the phone with Bear Stearns. Bear Stearns was one of our correspondent banks. And I got on the phone with the rep and I was like, hey, let's go over our pipeline with you guys. And she goes, well, the loans are on hold. And I'm like, well, which loans are on hold? She goes, all of them. I said, how is that? What do you mean all of the loans are on hold? Like, it was so foreign, but it was like, well, it was a week and then there was 2 weeks and then it was a month and it was just dead. Right.
And none of them are going through. How many loans are we talking about?
Man, I don't know. I mean, I like to believe that we're doing hundreds of loans, but I think back then, you know, we were processing probably, 30, 40 loans a month, which was a great brokerage. It was a small brokerage, but it was so easy to make money in the mortgage industry back then.
Mm.
And to have it it didn't trickle. It just stopped. It was crazy. It was crazy. So it didn't feel good, but it took a month or so for us to realize, yeah, I think this is over. Like it's done. And U and I had to figure out what to go do next. I actually moved from Nevada and came to California because I literally, houses, homes, everything was repoed. Our office was taken back. We had actually several offices. Filed bankruptcy. Like it was crazy. It was
Your
insane.
personal house was taken from
Oh
you.
yeah. I actually had several homes because we were in a mortgage business, and so we were investing in real estate. I think I ended up foreclosing on 3 or 4 homes back then, and then filing bankruptcy on the business and personally. So like we're talking like meteoric, like just complete annihilation. Like it was pretty crazy. It was gnarly.
That is gnarly. And I mean, man, just talking to you, like your mindset and just the way you approach things, like you're talking about a traumatic part of your life and you're just like, this was terrible. And you're smiling about it. Like,
Well, I'm smiling now. It's been a long time, but dude, I was not smiling from about 2008 to 2015, maybe. And maybe not, but
mhm.
I didn't take that well. I didn't take that well. It's not like and I'm smiling about it now, but dude, it was years where I felt less than. I felt like less of a man, less of a father. Like it was really weird because I also didn't realize that the entire country took it in the shorts. Like it's weird because when you fail isolated, when your business goes badly, but it's just your business, it's like, oh, you failed.
Mhm.
But the whole country was failing, but I didn't feel that way. I felt like I was the only one. So it took a while. It took a while to get through that failure and feel whole again, which is stupid, by the way.
Yeah, I do want to unpack that. And I think this is going to be a great nugget for people to take from, because there's a lot of instability this year. This year might not
Yeah.
be as big as 2008, but, a lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people are trying to find their way and really understand, what's next. If you were to, go back to 2008 version of you and you got through that yourself, what would you say to somebody, that you wish you would have known to get you out of that funk and get you back on your horse quicker to progress and say, basically, this isn't over. Like there's something else out there for you.
I think I would have gone back and just be kinder to myself, right? Because um, you think so much about what other people are thinking about your failure, and the truth is everybody else is just trying to figure out their own lives, right? And so you can be a lot kinder to yourself and realize that even though you failed, you're every bit as talented. You're every bit as you have as much potential as you had before your failure, right? None of that changed. The only thing is that something happened where there was a misstep. Either the economy went down or you made a big mistake. It doesn't matter which one that is, but it should not define you. And I think a lot of people, their failures end up defining them, and it changes them to the core. And it did change me for quite some time, where I wasn't even as gregarious. I let go of a lot of my friendships because I was so embarrassed. And all of that is just being kind to yourself. Even to the point that as you go through that failure, you might have family members stop believing in you as well. You might have a spouse or somebody that you love be hard on you about the failure.
Mhm.
That's to be expected, because fear starts to rule your relationships when you're in that failure period and you're trying to rebuild. And so your spouse is like, what the heck are we going to do? Right. And so it rattles you. You got to just take a breath and realize that it doesn't define who you are. And there's so much game ahead of you. If you failed at 85, okay, that's a problem. But if you have a failure right now in 2020 and you are, less than 75 years old, then my opinion is that there's a lot of game ahead of you. There's a lot of game ahead of you, and you have to see it that way. You have to see it as there's a lot of game ahead of you, because what other option do you have?
You
You
know
got to
that
keep moving.
That's an amazing perspective, and that's a bomb right there. That's an absolute mental bomb. People are going to love that for sure. And I find myself remembering that, when we think about past failures, it's that story that you tell yourself. You've got that past story, like, I failed once And then they take that and they apply that to the next level, which is just remanifesting that failure in a new situation, where if you would just be able to let that go and take each day as a clean slate and be like, you know what, this happened. I'm not happy about it, but I've got infinite amount of opportunity in today to make a change. So
Yeah.
I always try to be aware and cognizant of that. And I think that's a huge lesson that people can take away from this right now. So
But one thing I'll say here, I actually want to get this soundbite, because the other thing I think that affected me a lot was fear. And I remember actually speaking to another guy that here in town who was going through a bankruptcy, and he didn't tell anybody. He was so embarrassed. And he called me up because I had told him one day that I had failed miserably in 2008. So he called me up and he goes, he was so scared. His voice was shaking. And he said, I don't know what to do. I got creditors calling me. I haven't really told my wife yet. And he was so scared. He hadn't talked to anybody. And I wish, like, so many people go through that. And the truth is you've got to find somebody that you can talk to, right? You've got to be able to go through it, because what anybody who's gone through bankruptcy, anybody who's gone through failure will tell you is that no one's going to come and take your children away. No one's going to come and put you in jail. Like the things that you start telling yourself when your business is crashing, like the worst case scenarios are not going to happen. Thankfully, we live in a country where there's a system that can catch you if you fail. Now, are you going to have to live a more humble life, right? Because you might have to move in with your in-laws or move into an apartment that you're not very proud of. You might have to take the bus. I mean, like, yes, that's going to happen, but don't let your fear take you to feeling like your life is over, like somebody's going to throw you in jail, and that there's no more hope. That's worse than the failure itself.
And I think a big part of that too is that people, like, to your point, people worry so much about what other people are thinking about them that it's not even really the failure. You know, a guy that I follow, Andy Frisella, he owns First Form now. It's a $100 million supplement company. He literally lived on a couch in the back of his store for almost a decade while he was building this supplement superstore. And people just care so much about what other people are thinking that they're not willing to take the steps necessary to take themselves to the level that they want to get to. So I think that's a huge issue too, is people got to let go of that story too.
Yeah, they do. And actually, that's one thing that I really like about Gary Vaynerchuk, as far as you talk about speakers. He's one of the first entrepreneurial guys that came out and saying, stop buying stupid stuff, be willing to live meagerly while you're building the business. He hasn't been about flaunting cars and babes and infinity pools. And I think that's actually a lot more akin to entrepreneurship than what a lot of people show. Also, I think the other one that I really admire is Fubu Founder. What's his name? Fubu Founder. Damon John. Yep. He's also the kind of guy who says, hey, this is a struggle. I love that he posts. Damon will post a picture of him on the street corner selling beanies, right, to people going to the rap concert. And he's like, he's so proud of that picture, right? Like the struggle of him sewing beanies. He was sewing beanies in his mom's freaking house, right? And he's proud of that. And he knows that that's entrepreneurship. So I think more and more of these speakers that are coming out and showing entrepreneurship as it really is super helpful, super good for the psyche of business.
Yeah, the hustle over the result. When you're always just result focused, one, you're never going to get there because the future isn't a place. Like, as much as you want to say that the future is a place, you never get to the future. You're only here right now. So people are always trying to get to this next destination of like, once I get there, that time never comes. So it's always like, what am I doing now? Am I proud of my actions? Am I doing everything that I can today to live the life that I want to live? And I think that's where the pride should come from, is the hustle and the grind and living a life that is respectable.
Yeah, totally agree, man. I'm with you on that.
Absolutely. Well, this is awesome. So we finished the mortgage, part. You resolved that business. You had a great partner. And I personally think Amada Senior Care, I mean, I work in this space, so I literally talk to people like your business every single day of every kind. Assisted care, skilled nursing, memory care, in-home care, hospice care. I mean, you name it. And you have one of the largest in-home franchise care businesses in America. I mean, you've got a great team. You have heavy hitters on your C-suite team. You've got good people in place. And I think
Yeah, we do.
yeah, I think you're personally ahead of the game by 10, 20 years in this space, if I'm being quite honest. So I really want to break down to you starting Amada Senior Care and how you found your purpose in empowering others through this business, not only in franchise owners, but also in helping the elderly, which is one of the best causes I could think of, honestly.
Yeah. You know, it's actually, I think, a good story because I didn't start Amada. And I think there's so many ways for you to become an entrepreneur. The guys who actually started Amada Senior Care were two guys, Chad Followingham and Tafa Jefferson, who were college buddies. And they got back together after years from college. And in about 2007, there's a chance encounter where they got back together. They decided to start Amada Senior Care. And they ran that business all the way from 2007 to when we started franchising in about 2011, 2012. And what was amazing about Amada is that during that depression time that we talked about, the Great Recession of 2008, when I was going down in flames, these two guys were building a company that was just growing by leaps and bounds, like 07, 08, 09, 10, 11. They were just like going screaming up during the Great Recession, which is an amazing thing to see, that a home care company could be that that recession proof, right? Or resistant at least. So my involvement was really luck. They had decided that they want to start a franchise because there was this guy, Robert Christensen, who's an amazing entrepreneur. Robert Christensen wanted to become the first franchisee of Amada Senior Care. And he wouldn't take no for an answer. In fact, when he reached out to Chad and to Tafa, he's like, I want to become a franchisee. And they're like, well, we don't franchise. And Robert's like, well, you do now. I'm going to be your very first franchisee. I'm going to open this thing. I'm going to do it. And he really pushed those two guys into franchising. And so I came in just as Robert Christensen signed his first franchise agreement. And I came in to be in charge of franchise development, to start to then find the other franchisees. And it was actually quite a bit of luck. I was working for another franchise. I was able to get involved, and I actually kind of came into it kicking and screaming, because at that time I didn't know that I was going to stay in franchising. So yeah, I was working hard at the time and I had good connections, but really my involvement with Amada was a lot of luck, really a lot of luck.
When I hear people say luck, I want to be careful about the use of luck, because I personally think luck means I took a lot of chances. I worked really, really hard, and eventually it paid off.
Yeah, it's true. You know, we had to work extremely hard to build a company, and I think it was luck and also patience, right? And not that I was always patient or that we were always patient. But understanding that it would take a long time to build something that was worth it. And what we always had, what was amazing about Amada, is that whenever we would look at what these two guys were able to build in Orange County and the amount of lives they changed, the amount of jobs they were providing, what an amazing service they were providing for the seniors, that was always this fuel to think, if they can do it here, our franchise partners can do it throughout the country. And when that started to become true, so Robert Christensen, the first franchisee, he had this meteoric rise. He had an amazing first year and second year and third year. Then our second franchisee was Ken Jensen in Colorado Springs. Ken also just grew like a rocket. So you have your first two, imagine this, you have your first two franchisees are just rock stars. That's not common. A lot of times the first 5, 10 franchisees of a system kind of flounder, right? They're kind of like, and some make it, some don't. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of selection issues with franchisors where they award the franchise to the wrong people. The system isn't quite proven out. We, on the other hand, have this system that the first two franchisees are just ridiculous. Like, they just go crazy. And so that was the fuel that I think we all needed to go, we've got something here. So again, I guess it's not luck, but it was an amazing confluence of events, whatever you want to call it, that gave us such fuel to continue to build a company, even when it was hard in 12, 13, 14, and 15 as we were building it. Again, we just got really lucky to bring the right people together.
So before these two franchises even started, if I'm hearing this right, you felt like you had a great deal of trust for these two partners, and you believed in the message and you believed what they were building enough to say, hey, I will become a part of this. And then you took that model and you empowered other people. So do you think it was a combination of trusting the system and then using that trust to empower others to kind of do the same?
Yeah, for sure. So my decision to start running the franchise operations of Amada, to leave my previous job, to go on unemployment while I was kind of like trying to figure out this new company, was absolutely based on, I had no doubt that my two business partners, Chad and Tafa, who had built an amazing company in Orange County, I had zero doubt that if I found the right entrepreneur and just put him in front of Chad and Tafa, and if that entrepreneur was willing to work their butts off, that they would be successful. So I was able to look people in the eye. I was able to speak to them over the phone with such conviction, even in those early years. And I think that's really important, right? Is I didn't have confidence in the company's marketing plan. The systems weren't there. There was no training to speak of. There were just these two dudes that really knew their stuff. And I trusted that. And I think that's critical to an entrepreneur. There's got to be something in that business that gives you such confidence that you can go out and sell that to anybody. And I don't care how early it is in the company, if it's the first year, second year, that confidence was certainly there and it's never left. I still today believe that the right entrepreneur, I guess it's so crazy. Like, I have zero doubt that the right entrepreneur, if they come into Amada Senior Care and they work hard, they will build an empire. Like, I have zero doubt, because at this point we've done it over and over and over and over again. But I had no doubt even back in 2012. It's kind of interesting to think that was the case. I never doubted the power of this company.
I think that's amazing for two reasons, because in the end, obviously, when you're building momentum and you're gaining confidence that way, and you've seen it to be proven to be successful, that's one thing. But when you are starting out and you don't really know what's going to happen, to have that conviction and have that faith to get going, I think that's everything. I've been in sales for 6 years myself, and I've been in the software space, and I've sold a variety of softwares to a variety of different industries. And
Yeah.
I know hundreds of salespeople. I mean, I've met so many different salespeople, and that's the number one quality. I think that's important. Well, I'd say hunger is the number one quality, but I'd say the number two quality is belief. If you don't believe in what you're doing, or you don't truly believe in your core that you're making a difference, you're not going to have that fire. You just won't.
No, you won't. And your days will be miserable, right? Selling something you don't believe in is just it's a slow death, right? It sucks. And a lot of people get stuck there, right? Where they have a job, they've got a product they don't quite believe in, but it's a job, right? And man, I don't wish that on anybody. And I hope anybody who's listening, man, that you're able to someday find that thing that you not just passionate about, but that you can honestly look at somebody and go, this is legit. Like, this thing is awesome. For you, this thing is revolutionary. Like, having that is really fun. It's awesome.
Something that sets your soul on fire, something that you wake up and you're like, this is like what it is. I love that for sure.
Yeah, you bet. Do you follow Ross on LinkedIn? He's a corporate bro.
Oh yeah. Corporate bro. Most definitely.
Shout out to corporate bro. I love Ross, man. I think that guy has really captured the sadness of sales, right? Like, I think his content is brilliant. I know LinkedIn, a lot of times not very happy with his content, but I think that dude's a genius. Sales is such a crazy, up and down world, and I think he's captured it beautifully.
Never stop selling.
Sadness, right? Like, I can't remember what it all stands for, but every time he posts something, I take a break, I look at it, and it makes me laugh and it makes me have a good day. So Ross, I'm a big fan.
That's so funny. I love it. I love his content too. And I 100% agree with you. You got to enjoy what you're doing. You got to find a way to love what you do. That's everything. So
Yeah,
you're,
yeah, for sure.
you're in this process, you're building it out. Your first franchises are killing it. You know, now we're at the point where you're revolutionizing the business in terms of the technology. And that's where I'd love to plug ClickFunnels. You know, I've been following ClickFunnels
Oh
for
yeah.
a long time. When Russell Brunson was just starting out, you know, you've got all those awards on your wall from ClickFunnels. You've done very, very well. I'd love to talk to you about revolutionizing the space in terms of the technology piece, because you really took an industry that was pretty new, you franchised it, you killed it
Yeah.
there, and then you've created this whole, you know, leads funnel and this whole attraction that not a lot of people in the space were doing at all.
Yeah, that is true. If I may say so, it is something that when we started going after our ideal candidates back in 2012, it wasn't something the franchise industry really talks about, or at least didn't used to talk about. For those of you guys who may not know about the franchise industry, a lot of franchising is basically you put out your franchise out there, and anybody who wants to buy it comes in, and as long as they are nice, they have the money, and they have the money, they can buy the franchise, right? And then it's just, let's just see if you make it. And we really didn't want to do that. We wanted to build a franchise with entrepreneurs that were absolutely our ideal entrepreneur. That goes back to the conversation we were having, that what if you take a system and you put the absolute right entrepreneur in it? What can happen, right? And so we decided to go after a very specific entrepreneur, and it worked out for us. But back in 2012, 2013, 14, I was trying to find inspiration of how to build a funnel that only attracts a very specific type of entrepreneur, a very specific type of person. And I remember stumbling on to Russell Brunson, who used to talk about a lot about reaching your audience, how to reach your audience. And I met Russell in San Diego at, I think it was his conference back in, I think it was 2014. And ClickFunnels had just really launched back then. And he was such a cool guy. Like I went up to him, I started chatting with him, and he was so nice and approachable, asked about my business. And then he went and presented on stage, and I was just blown away.
He's also a Utah guy, right?
What's that?
He's a Utah guy, right?
Yeah, Idaho.
Idaho.
Yeah, Idaho. Yeah, he says no one will ever take him out of Idaho. He loves Boise. And so I read everything the guy puts out, all of his books, any conference he puts on, I'll go to. Like I think Russell Brunson is, I really think today, the absolute best marketing teacher, influencer on the planet right now, as far as the mechanics of getting your audience to look at your offer, accept the offer, and work through your funnel. I don't think there's anyone in this world that is better than Russell Brunson. I mean, the guy is, and as giving as he has been with his content, I think the dude's amazing. That's gushing, right? Like I think the dude's pretty amazing.
Yeah, sounds like a little man crush. And
A little bit. Yeah, I've got this amazing one-sided friendship with him. Like I don't think he has any idea who I am, but it's, what's kind of cool is, speaking of man crush, it's cool. It's cool for you to feel that somebody out there will buy anything you put out, right? Like I think that's really cool that they talk about if you have 1 million true fans, right? Or 100 true fans, whatever that is, to get to that point that when you put out a book, when you put out content, when you put out a product, that you have these fans that come and buy it. That process is actually what I'm more crushed about. It's not just about Russell, but the way he's able to get his audience to respond to him is something I think of beauty. And it's something that every brand and everyone who's running a brand should study how he does that, because it's absolutely incredible. The amount of people that will buy from him every time he launches something, I think is a crazy stat.
I'm seeing a theme with you now, and I think it's you trust processes. You find really, really good processes in life, and you buy into those processes. When it came to Amada, you're like, let's put the right people in place. And if we put the right people in place, they will thrive in this system. And then you get the ClickFunnels, and now you're saying the same thing where it's like, if I get people in front of this guy and they follow this process will work. So I think that that's something that I don't know, even know if you knew about yourself, but you're very, very good at spotting really great processes and then utilizing those processes.
Well, thank you. And maybe that comes from laziness, because what was in front of me back in 2012 was trudging through hundreds of leads who are mostly unqualified, which is kind of sales, right? Well, the heartache of sales is that you get into your office and you've got, I don't know, 100 leads. And you very well know that when you call those 100 leads, they're mostly going to be unqualified, depending on what you're selling, right? And how you're getting those leads. There's so many people go through that. And I remember in 2012, I thought, I'm not going to do that. I simply will not. I'm not going to wake up every morning and look at a list of leads and be depressed to speak to 100 people to find one. And in fact, I remember thinking, I'll go do something else, right? I'm just not okay with that. And so getting into ClickFunnels and Russell Brunson was my way of going, I'm either going to figure out how to make those 100 leads amazing people, or I'm just not going to do it. And so that's what I love about process is there's always a process for you to be able to find, how do I advertise to ventriloquists? Or how do I make females over the age of 40 who are interested in fitness respond to me? Because somebody is doing that already. Like everyone has an audience. And if you can copy what that person is doing to attract their audience and follow their process, then you can do it as well. So that's my passion for process is I don't want to reinvent it. I want to do whatever somebody else is already doing and copying it.
You want to do it better. I mean, you demanded more from yourself, and that's so interesting because I resonate with the pain of sales very, very much.
Yeah.
I talk to a lot of people, whether it's the timing is wrong, they don't have budget, they don't have need. There's a number of reasons why they might not be a good prospect for you. So the fact that you said, "Hey, I'm not going to settle for the way that this thing is right here. I'm going to take this thing that's already here and I'm going to make it better." And I think you can take that and you can apply that to any area of life. If you demand more for yourself, that's essentially you saying, "Hey, this is not okay the way it is. I'm going to do better. I deserve better."
And it's also looking through another lens, right? So, and maybe that's what I think what great marketers try to do is, because it's so funny in sales, if you're on a sales team and you look at, well, we have 100 leads, out of 100 leads, 2 people really respond, right? Mm-hmm. And so what some organizations do is they go, well, if that's the case, then all we need to do is let's get 200 leads. Let's get 500 leads. Let's get 1,000 leads. Like they say, let's increase the amount of leads. Mm-hmm. But all that does is it creates incredible amount of sadness for your salespeople who are going to have to trudge through more leads to find that ideal person. Instead, is there a way for you to improve the quality of the people who are looking at your business, right? And the answer is always yes. There is a way that you can make sure that a much higher percentage of those 100 leads are better. And I think the reason a lot of companies don't is they're just pure lazy. They're too lazy to go and rethink their messaging, create better content, re-engage with their clients, because it's super hard work. It's easier to just throw more money at a campaign, get more leads, and make your salespeople be miserable, which is really too bad, right?
That makes me very, very sad. there's this company, it's a smaller company. It's called Refine Labs. One of my friends works for this guy, and it's a smaller company, but their whole platform is similar to ClickFunnels, but they're analyzing every piece of that. So they're looking at like MQL stages. They're looking at like, should you safeguard your content in terms of like a brochure or a webinar and all these different things, and how the marketing system is just fundamentally flawed and broken. But people just do not put enough work in on the front end. They're just not willing to do it. They're like, this works kind of good. This works okay. Like, what's wrong with it? So
we're generating leads, right? The leads are coming in, right? Yes. And they look at the cost of lead, right? Well, we're generating leads at a really good cost, right? And so you keep running that engine. But man, and again, talking about process and copying other companies, you look at the companies that we respect, the companies that are renowned, that that we aspire to be, they're really, really good at messaging that one person, right? They're really good at making that one person come alive and respond to them. And what I mean by that one person, it's their avatar, that person they want to reach and change their lives. And so I think you have so many models out there of Apple and other companies that are amazing at doing that. And I think it's just, it's sad that so many salespeople just have to trudge through bad leads. In this day and age, where it's no longer radio ads and TV ads, it's no longer just Super Bowl ads, where you can completely target your message to one dude in, Blaine, Minnesota, you can send that guy a message. There's no more excuse for bad leads. There just isn't, in my opinion.
No more excuses for bad leads. I'm with you. If I could never have a bad lead again, I'd be all about it. That's typically why. That's why.
Revolt. You get a bad lead again.
I prospect a lot of stuff myself, if I'm being honest. I have a pretty good eye for opportunity, and I can kind of see what I'm looking for. And I've gotten a pretty good process down where I'm good at using tools and systems to find the people that I need to find and find messaging that works. But I've built out a system myself, from like customized email cadences to customized flows of like reaching out on LinkedIn, email, phone, all these different things. So the process is very, very important, because if you don't have a good process in place, you're wasting time. You're wasting a lot of time because your process sucks. And two, you're just in front of a lot of bad people. So what's the point? So that brings us to the point. I mean, you've got a lot of awards on your wall. I've seen you on LinkedIn. You've met with Russell. Yeah. Those awards. Let's talk about those boys.
Quite frankly, really, the ClickFunnels team, Russell Brunson, and all the team there, they've just been incredibly generous. Not only with education, but whenever I reached out and had trouble and had it, like, how can I do this? They've been so cool at mentoring and talking to me about our system. And every year as our company grows, they've given us these amazing marketing awards. And I think it's cool because it tells you what their focus is, right? Is to make entrepreneurs successful, and to help entrepreneurs become successful in using their funnels. So I'm very proud of these. More because I love the company. I think they're such a great company. So being recognized by them has always felt really good. It's really fun.
It's so amazing to me that like I'm finding and I'm following your life pattern, and it just keeps coming back to processes and believing in what you're doing. And it seems like it's happening there too. And I mean, you've gotten to the point now where you've built this huge brand. You have all these awards from ClickFunnels. You guys are doing very, very well. And I almost feel like you're at a state of, giving back, where you've got your podcast, you're helping a ton of people all over America become their own, version of entrepreneurs. And I have to imagine that feels really, really good and gratifying to be at that point in your life.
Yeah. I was thinking about, thank you. But, I was thinking about the other day is my job, every day, my job is actually to take entrepreneurs, the people who want to be entrepreneurs, and push them off the cliff, right? So as a franchisor, my job is to bring the entrepreneur in and help them see the opportunity, invite them to acquire the franchise, and then go be successful. And it's interesting because as much as I'm putting people at risk every single day, right? Mm-hmm. I love that part of my life. I love the fact that over the last, 10 or 15 years now, I've really helped hundreds of people jump off that cliff. Not all of them have been successful, by the way. But the fact that I'm involved in this process of people going from not feeling like they are listened to at their job, feeling like there's more to them than being a salesperson or a VP or a manager, right? And they want to start a business. They've thought about starting a business ever since they were kids. And to be involved in that process, it does make me come alive. I absolutely love it. I love seeing that. Going from, I wonder if Amada is the right thing for me, to, I think it is, to, I'm a franchisee and I'm going to go, like, going through that process with people is pretty life affirming. So I absolutely love doing it. I love every day of my life that I get to do that. Like, I feel very privileged that I get to insert myself in when people are at such a stage in their life where they're looking at what do I do next, and to be a small part of that is life affirming. I love it.
I really couldn't say it better than what you just said right there. I think being able to look at your life and, have a good holistic view of everything that you've done and say, what I'm doing matters and I'm helping other people and it makes me come alive. That's what people spend their entire life finding. And I think that's one of the great keys to a good life. So
Yeah, I think so too, man. I appreciate it. Now, what I love about you is it's kind of funny. There's somebody once said, you're in an interview and you go, but enough about me. Why don't you tell me what you think about me? Right? It's like, enough about me. I'll tell you this. What I love about what you're doing, man, is the fact that you're creating this content, the fact that you're reaching out to entrepreneurs, you're taking the time at, what time is it? We're recording at freaking 5:30 at night here in California.
It's 40 here.
Yeah. So I love that you're doing that. There's no one telling you to do this. It's not like your boss or somebody came to you and said, hey, go record these podcasts. So my hat's off to you, man. Why do you do it?
So funny story. You had talked about the fact that, you have to follow your gut and you have to follow like what you're passionate about in life.
Yeah.
Me growing up in South Dakota, I remember looking at the sky and I was on a 4-wheeler in the farm in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of a field. And I always felt like there was something more to life. And no matter what I did and where I went, I always felt like there was something more and there was something missing, whether that was when I graduated high school and then I moved to Fargo, North Dakota, and I went to NDSU. And that was a transition from farm life to 100,000 people. So that was a huge city for me.
That's a big transition, yeah.
That was a big transition. And then when I joined the military in 2010, I spent 6 years in the National Guard. I wanted more of a purpose-driven life. So I feel like I've always been chasing purpose and I've always been listening to that. And I got to the point where, it was April. I had gotten to enterprise level outside sales. I was flying all over the country, meeting with people, doing something that I always had set out a goal to do. And I felt like, why am I not fully fulfilled? Like there has to be something more for me. And I think at that point I realized it's not all about me. Like your greatest purpose in life is to help people with what you've, essentially you want to overcome. So I was sitting there on my girlfriend's couch in April and we were watching this YouTuber and she was like, this guy is cool. I think you'd like him. I started watching him. I said, this is really cool. I've always wanted to make videos like that. And she said, well, why don't you? So I started making weekly live streams with my buddy every single week on Tuesday. We would go in there and we talk for an hour. We would just talk about our weeks. We'd talk about what happened.
Yeah.
And I was like, and every week we'd set goals. Like, this is what I'm going to accomplish this week. And we'd come back and we'd say, hey, this is what I learned from accomplishing this, or this is what I could do better. Well, then I realized, I was like, this should be called the weekly intention because they're setting weekly intentions for our life.
Got it. Yeah.
And then I had realized, like, people have better even intentions than I do. There are people that can do this. And I had reached out to a local therapist. I had bought all this equipment and I was so nervous. The first one that I did of these. I
bet. Yeah.
And he was like, how many of these have you done? I said, this is my first one. He said, oh boy. And when we got to the end of it, he basically said to me, not to brag, but he was like, I see a future for you in this. That was really good.
No way.
And I just feel like every one of these, I get into a flow and I get into my true self where I'm not even thinking anymore. I'm just being. Like when I do these, I truly care about what I'm doing. I value what you have to say. I think that people are going to gain a lot from this and I want them to. So I think that comes through in the process.
That's cool, man. So that's your why. That's why you do it. It feels right. It's the type of work you'll do for free, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm getting paid no money to do this right now.
I know, which is oftentimes the best work, right? Mm-hmm. Is the work that you would do for free, right? I love that type of work. And I think you're smart. It's smart for you to be creating content. I think it's one of the biggest opportunities we have right now, especially on LinkedIn, is creating content for your audience, whoever that is, the people who are going to buy from you, the people you want to work for someday, the people you want to get into your circle, for them to see you making content on LinkedIn, for example, I think is an opportunity that won't be there forever.
Mhm.
And I think it's so strange, man. I hear so many people asking me, for example, why did you do content? Why do you do these interviews? You're not even talking about Amada most of the time. And the bottom line is it's the same thing that you say, right? I love doing it. But also I know that for somebody to make a decision on becoming a franchisee of Amada Senior Care, they need to know who's behind the brand. They need to know the people that are involved. And and LinkedIn and Facebook and all these platforms are just an incredible opportunity for you to get content there, to get people to know you specifically, not just your brand. They talk about that it takes whatever 4, 5, 6, 7 times that somebody sees you and your brand before they're going to make an inquiry.
Mhm.
And you've got this platform that for free, you can get people to see you 4, 5, 6, 7 times. The people who you want to sell, the people you want to influence, it's a crazy opportunity. And I don't understand why more people like you are not taking advantage of it. It's mind boggling to me.
People don't understand how to use LinkedIn as a platform, and I didn't at first either. And people don't understand how much organic exposure you can have on LinkedIn. You are not getting that type of traction on Instagram or Facebook right now. Like,
Right. Yeah.
the amount of views. So
It's crazy.
I think it's spotting opportunities and being open to it too. And also I think when I'm doing this or whenever I feel like I'm down, I just think to myself, what would I tell my 13-year-old self? And like everything that I'm saying now are just things that I wish that I would have known. And I wish I could have told myself sooner in life. So if I can
Yeah.
share those things that I wanted to know with other people who are also wanting to know those things, I'm just feeling their purpose and I'm just pushing them along their path in life. So
That's it. And that can be your only reason. And that content works.
mhm.
Dude, that content gets people to know you, know your heart, know who you are, and they'll buy from you a lot easier than if you don't have this content. So my hat's off to you, man. Good job doing this stuff.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing your story today. It was an amazing story.
Yeah, you bet.
I think there's a lot of good things that people have as far as takeaways, whether that's, spotting opportunities, trusting the process, all of these different things. I'm super stoked to get this out to people. I always plug people, and it's funny, I do this in person usually, but if you guys don't, follow me at The Weekly Intention on Instagram. Make sure to like and share this. It's going to be on YouTube. It's pretty much on any social channel that you can find it. I do this, like Marcus had said, to share this with other people who are trying to better their lives and just be better people, whether that's entrepreneurs, better in their fitness, better in their relationships, just be better people in general. So you can find me at The Weekly Intention. You can find me at the Michael Mulder on Instagram. I'm on YouTube at Michael Mark Mulder. This is going to be a good one. I got a good feeling about this one.
Really? That's good.
I got a
That's
good
good.
feeling
I don't like to do interviews where you get a bad feeling
Never a bad
from the
feeling.
interview. So that's good.
Best feelings. Where do people find you? Let's plug some of your stuff.
You can find me on LinkedIn. I love to connect with folks on LinkedIn. That is a platform that I'm mostly on. Facebook is really my platform for my family and keeping in touch with folks in Brazil. But here's what I think is interesting, that I think it might be a new revolution, which is the texting revolution. And I'm testing a new platform called Community. And a lot of you guys may have seen this platform. Russell Brunson, Gary Vaynerchuk, a lot of the folks in every industry now, influencers are using this platform called Community. And what I think is interesting is it's the ability for you to have a one-on-one conversation with the folks that follow you or are interested in your brand through texting. But it's different from what you'd imagine. It's not about you sending text messages to people saying, hey, come to do this or come to do that. It's really about having a conversation. So I'm testing Community right now. I think it's going to be, it was email in the 90s, in the early 2000s. Then it becomes, pay-per-click, all the things that we marketers try to leverage to get to our audience. And I believe Community, this texting one-on-one, is going to be the next thing. So if you want to help me test this, text me at 949-312-9951. Again, that's 949-312-9951. I want to test this Community platform. And what I'll do is, as you text, I'm going to share with you guys what I'm seeing in the texting community. If it's helpful, if it's working, if it's worth the price. But I would encourage everybody to go look at Community. and these texting platforms to reach your audience. But that's how you can reach me today.
That should be in an infomercial, that last
I
part.
know, right?
This is the weekly intention, and you knew this was coming. I do this at the end of every single show. You know, based on your experience in the life that you've lived and everything that you have done, I always like to leave people with one single intention where they can say, from this episode, I can take this piece of advice and run with it to substantially increase the quality of my life tomorrow. If you had one thing to say to people who are watching right now, what would that be?
I would say what I wish somebody would have told me when I lost everything in 2008 is just be kind to yourself. Just be kind to yourself, man. Give yourself a freaking break. You know, we're so hard on ourselves. Um, and it drives me crazy when I see guys that are 20, 30, 40, you know, thinking that they've missed it or they're behind, they haven't achieved enough. And who cares about what everybody else thinks or what your buddies are doing, what your family members have achieved that you haven't? Be kind to yourself, because that's where it starts, right? If you can be kind to yourself and give yourself these pep talks of you are amazing, you're just as good as anybody else out there. There's no difference between you and the most successful people that you know. You just got to give yourself some time, and you start being kind to yourself, then other people will treat you that way too. Um, give yourself a break. There's a lot of game ahead of us. I know it's been a ridiculously difficult year for a lot of people. But I'll tell you this, it's not going to be the only ridiculously hard year. So you might as well get used to the fact that, yeah, life will throw you some pretty awful stuff. And then, and that's what I wish somebody would have told me, just freaking be kind to yourself.
I think that's a mic drop on that one.
Thanks, man.
That's a beautiful statement. I truly am grateful to know you, and I'm glad that we're getting a chance to connect. I'm glad that you got a chance to tell your story. It's been amazing, and I've learned a lot myself too. So thank you so much for jumping on. You
got
know
it,
where
man.
to find him. You know where to find me. And until next time, this is Michael with the Weekly Intention. Take care.